This podcast is proudly brought to you by Paul's Strength Book, an app for everyone. For less than $2 a day, you can have full access to weight training programs, nutrition, recipes, macro calculators, video library, and you can also track all of your metrics including weight, measurements, strength, and performance. Search for Paul's Strength Book in all good app stores now. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Paul's Body Engineering Podcast. This week I have two guests. I'm very lucky. Firstly, we've got Tim from Nutrition Warehouse. Tim's going to come in and obviously with a wealth of knowledge from a supplement-based perspective, but also having experienced a lot of bodybuilding, a lot of powerlifting, and speaking to just numerous clients for years and years and years. He's going to bring in a wealth of knowledge on this particular roundtable, and we're also joined by Kelly Greenslade, obviously Coach Kelly, also a very experienced competitor and athlete as well as coach. So today's topic is primarily around contest prep and the reverse diet, just all the things that can potentially not only go wrong, but just things that people need to look out for, particularly if you're a little bit inexperienced in that space. So it's a roundtable discussion with no particular agenda, but from it, I think you'll find that there's a lot of value, a lot of content, and a lot of things to learn. So without further ado, let's get on with it. We're back for another one, and I got Tim from Nutrition Warehouse joining me again, mate. You're becoming somewhat of a regular now. This is like your third time.
I think it's third one. Yeah, I said to you before, mate. It just gives me an excuse to get out of the shop and get out in the sun.
That's
so
right. The bosses don't listen to this. So
no, well, they should be, but anyway. But yeah, it's. I think it's a good chance to attract a different audience.
Yeah,
so,
100%. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. You know, you get a different audience on podcast compared to in face-to-face who'll drop in. So,
well, people who actually want to know things, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're listening. You know, people who just want to walk around and tell me what they should take, they usually come into the shop.
Yeah. And you send them away with nothing.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Most of the time they just don't need anything, but you know, it's their choice that they want to spend money on stuff. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. $100 on some fat burners and...
Yeah, how's your diet? Oh, it could be better. Fix that first.
Do you get the I eat okay. I eat pretty good.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, you know, I eat pretty good. Yeah. Well, no, the one we get is I eat clean. I'm like, cool. Does that mean you spray and wipe your food? I don't know. I don't know what eating clean is. There's no definition of that in the dictionary. But yeah, I don't know. I think after 9 years, you sort of just run with it after a while. Like, all right, cool, man.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Yeah, well, obviously you're not eating that clean because otherwise you wouldn't be here.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Oh dear. Well, so you wanted to talk about the various stages and various, I guess, implications of the reverse diet.
Yeah.
Recovery diet, or
I think for a long time, you always interview people, and I think it's about time that we interview you. I think you've got away with it for way too long. Yeah. We do have Kelly. We do have Kelly here as well.
I did do one where I interviewed you.
Did you?
Yeah, we did that video one.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Where I got to interview.
I would have loved to see
Paulie.
I would have loved to see the bloopers on that.
Yep. It was interesting. Oh, we did it live. We were in it live,
yeah. Media, that's right.
Wow, that's very game.
Yeah.
I think if I did that, there'd be a lot of beeping that had to be edited in afterwards.
Oh, we don't worry about beeping.
But yeah, so I thought we'd talk about something that I see happen a lot in comps, and to put the picture to the listeners out there. People get excited for a comp. They've never done one before, and they will jump into it. You know, as you know, competition prep is very hard, but there's a massive aspect of that prep, which is post-prep. So what happens after the show? And I think a lot of people don't realise that that's actually, well, in my experience, a lot harder than the actual prep for the show, because you have a set time when you're pushing towards. So when that time is taken away and you're not going to another show, you can sometimes lose yourself.
Yeah.
So, in your experiences, both of you, what do you look for leading into the last couple of weeks that gives you some warning signs that this person is going to need a bit more help after the show? Because obviously there is definitely warning signs there when people become too over food focused, or they start telling you about how they're going to book all the restaurants out when they finish their prep. And how do you help them to stay on track when they don't have a time frame of how long it takes to reverse diet, and what reverse dieting actually is? It's sort of the way that I was sort of thinking of talking about today, because a lot of people, I think they should understand how to read signs in themselves.
100%.
So what would you say is a few symptoms that will start to become pronounced as they're leading the last couple of weeks of prep, when you go, okay, this isn't going to be the best after the show's finished? What have you seen?
Look, you've mentioned one there, booking out restaurants. That's an obvious one. Like, we encourage them to have a meal out after the show, celebrate the season, great, no problem. But it's when they start hoarding food or start, talking often about, I'm going to eat this, and I'm going to eat this, I'm going to have this, and I can't wait to have this. And, that obviously is a heightened food focus mentality, which is very common, and you'll get it a lot, particularly with first timers. But if it's overwhelming, if that's all they're talking about, or if that's all they're looking at on social media, or if that's all their friends are sick of hearing, then it's going to become an issue. So you obviously have to make them very aware of that. So education is king, but at the same time, because they've been doing this dieting phase for such a long period of time, it's almost like trying to teach a teenager to do something and they won't listen to you.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a key one, is the food focus. The other one is not, and this more applies as soon as they're done, is unable to satiate themselves.
Okay,
so
they can't get full.
We mentioned just off air where they eat one slice of pizza and they're full.
Yes.
But mentally they're not full.
Yeah.
And they keep going.
Yeah.
So there's an element of that as well. And the other one, which is more, I guess, science-backed than anything else, is your libido obviously declines significantly.
Sure.
This is more male than female. I'm believing.
Yeah.
So I can't speak from a female point of view.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah. But that should return.
Sure.
Yeah. Within, obviously, a couple of weeks of obviously getting your energy back, your energy supply back, back to normality and balance, you should be able to obviously feel like that's back to normal as well. So they're the three key attributes. But to answer your question, leading into the season itself, it's more about their mentality around food.
That's it's a big giveaway.
It's a huge thing, because they're effectively, for lack of a better term, starving themselves or under good guidance, hopefully, for months on end. So what you're restricted by is what you tend to focus on, because you can't have it.
Yeah, that's where you're stuck in those weird fixations on foods you never really liked before. It's strange.
Absolutely.
I have a good mate of mine who competes quite often and does quite well for himself, and we'll keep his name off air. And what he used to do is while he was eating his mundane food, he would sit there and watch food shows and pretend that he was eating that.
That food porn's a big one. I've noticed, and that's what they call it, right?
Yeah,
so it's
of
all
course.
those like the nines in Malulabar.
They
do those
everything.
Really extravagant shakes with the donuts on top of them, and or people watching you cut into cakes that are oozing out with chocolate, that kind of food porn stuff.
And of course, obviously, as you're dieting, you all your feel-good hormones are depleting massively. So you're getting external supplementation there. But I think I just wish that we would see more people starting to educate people on what happens after the show. Because I think you would see it as well that people get told a whole bunch of myths, for a better word. And one of the biggest myths that I hear is that after you've dieted for so long, you're super anabolic, and which basically means you can grow muscle tissue so fast. And since you're so starving, you should just cram everything in your face that first 3 weeks.
We should be massive.
Well, we'd be massive in a certain way if you did it like that.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, but obviously, I think what you said is correct. It's the education behind realizing that it's only natural that your body is going to slow down as you eat less. So I guess my question to you is, with people who are hearing all these myths and, and they're still choosing to stay on with you after the comp to reverse diet out, do you have a set sort of, well, obviously without giving away your trade secrets, do you have a set sort of way you reverse diet them back up to where they should be, or is it more of like a feel sort of thing that you do with them?
I've got a couple of methods that I use. But it needs to be customised. It needs to be individual based, because not everyone can handle a slower reverse, which is obviously a method without going into finer detail.
Yeah.
Because all they want to do is eat. So often it's a better approach just to get them out real quick.
Okay.
But again, it needs to be done in a manner that's going to suit them, suit their lifestyle, without them going crazy. And look, at the end of the day, you've got no control over what they put in their mouth, right?
Correct, yeah.
So you can give them all the information, all the education, tell them what can potentially go wrong if they don't.
Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah.
It's you lead a horse to water. That's effectively what can happen. So, these people are adults at the end of the day. They make these decisions, but they're also making these decisions based on heightened emotion as well. So, you've got to give them as much understanding of the ramifications of not following the plan as you can, almost to a point of like shock factor.
Okay.
But again, it's I had a client. When did you compete last?
Season B last year.
Yeah. So same season, and that person basically didn't follow my instructions to reverse. Blew up like a house.
Real quick.
And you could clearly see like highly inflamed.
Yeah.
Because
inflammation wise.
Yeah.
Wow.
Highly inflamed.
Real puffy look.
Just because they
water
retention.
retention.
Couldn't stop themselves from eating.
Yeah.
Couldn't stop themselves. Even though they were full, they just could not stop.
Yeah.
So
how long did it take for that person to turn around to you and go, you know what, you're right, let's try and fix it?
They didn't acknowledge it. They never admitted to it.
Okay.
They don't train with me anymore, but
I suppose some people, as you said, you can't, you can lead a horse to water.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, look, no one's going to be perfect in a reverse. I don't think I've seen. There might be 1 out of 50 that might nail it. But it is very challenging. Like you said at the start, it's harder than the prep.
Yeah.
100%. It's
way harder.
50 times harder than prepping.
Yeah. Do you notice a difference between post-prep male versus female? Do you find that there's different attributes like?
Not really. Again, everyone's different. I think the more mature, and this is with all due respect, the more mature athlete tends to handle it a bit better, generally because they've got life experience behind them. So that mental resilience they build up, whether they're a parent or they've just gone through whatever, whereas a younger person tends to have a little less maturity around that point. So
they almost think they're indestructible, right?
Yeah, you're correct. I think it's very true. I think I was talking to a friend the other day about this. The typical male and female, the typical younger person who eats whatever they want, they never really put weight on because they're so young. Yeah. But as they get older and things start happening, things start really changing. So I think the same mentality applies to people who have done, 1 prep versus 5 preps. They sort of... They've done it, they look great, they might have won, but then they think they're indestructible because they won. And they can start doing some serious damage that can actually really impede their next time they want to lose weight.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah,
big time. They can really hamper their ability to successfully lose weight over a given period. Without a doubt.
It's I know you reverse dieted out quite well last time you competed, Kelly.
Well, the thing is so I've been obviously with Paulie for a really long time now, and I think that the first time we reversed me out, it wasn't bad. I didn't do too bad for someone who's a first timer. But we tried the slow reverse, and it didn't suit me because I found myself having those weekends where I'd blow out. I'm, again, probably mature enough to kind of pull myself back quicker than most people. And I'm terrified of getting to where I was when I started with Paul.
Okay.
So then I think my last prep, we went straight back to kind of maintenance straight away. And it honestly made a huge difference to my reverse. And I reversed out really well, and we had a goal because we knew I was competing again in 24, and So I knew that I had to kind of keep it together, and I really wanted to go in again in a really good space for my next season. And I didn't want to have to do 20 kilo loss in my prep again. My last prep was hell. And so we've kind of given myself a weight range, I guess, to stay within, to try and keep it, within the thing. And we've managed to keep me well and truly within that kind of range. So I'm set up, I guess, the best for my next season possible. But that I highly contribute that to, one, it was, I've done it a couple of times before, reversed out, but I think the way that we reversed me out this time just suited me better. And so it makes sense to, you kind of have to gauge, I guess, off of each person. And I guess it depends on their compliance throughout their prep as well, and how they are when they first come to you as to which way suits better.
I think that, nails what you just said before, Paul, about, it can't just be that everyone gets the same reverse diet plan. It's very much a custom sort of style to the person.
It needs to be. It has to be.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of people that'll fall off, and of course, when they fall off, the first person they're going to blame is you.
Yeah, of course.
You are the person that did it to them.
Absolutely.
I think the next thing about what happens with bad reverse diets and not reverse dieting at all is it can sometimes really hinder their mental health, which is a huge thing.
Yes.
So I guess when it comes to prep, the next thing I think it would tackle into is when you see people in prep that are just not going to make it in time, and there's always more comps, as we know. How do you deal with that minefield by, helping them to realise that you'd rather do it correctly and do it right, as opposed to get there, spend all this money, and not be happy with how you look? Because I think that's equally as important as the whole reverse dieting talk is sometimes with preps, people get so fixated on competing on this date, and their body just doesn't line up with that. And I think it's better to be mentally preparing them for, hey, let's just see how we go, as opposed to, yes, you're definitely going to get on season B or season A. Have you found that sometimes keeping more of an open plan for people works better, or does it come down to the person as well?
No, it does come down to the person, but at the same time, I make them aware at the start that it's my reputation as well as theirs, and I will never put anyone on stage who isn't ready. I think that's important because from the mental health point of view, as you mentioned, if they get up on stage, or even when they're pumping up backstage and they're looking around going, fuck, I don't look like these people. Straight away, that can have some pretty significant effects
for a long time after.
Big time, and then they obviously won't place. Not to say that they won't if they're looking good, but obviously that widens that possibility. And then they'll never compete again. Whereas I want them to do back-to-back seasons, because of the fact that I love the sport. So I try and get in there really early about the importance of obviously one, being compliant with the plan and following it, but at any given stage, if we start to waver, or if there's a lack of adherence, or if something unforeseen pops up that they have to deal with, then they need to be prepared to be pulled out. And I've done it before. It's not an easy conversation at all. But it's for the best interest of the individual, and I think that's the important thing, is that they have to understand that it's their health, mental and physical, that I put first every single time. I'm not just going to grind them into the ground.
Which does happen a lot. I see it happen over and over, and people are just trying to get their money, regardless of what they look like. And that's the show days this day. We're going to get regardless.
If they get on stage and they look their best, and whether they do well or not is irrespective, but if they get on stage and look their best, then that works in my favour anyway.
Correct. Why would you not want that?
Exactly. So that's how I do it. But you're right. It is a very challenging conversation, and they can obviously feel very disappointed and disheartened because they've been pulled out. But I think once the dust settles, that 9 times out of 10 they'll realise that it was for the right reasons.
Yeah, correct. It's like we have the discussion quite a lot in store with people who are interested in prepping, and they're just like, obviously, and usually we'll pass them on a coach's number or your number or another reputable coach that's sort of similar to what they want to do. But a lot of the times we're screening them first. They just haven't had the years put into training before they even think about it. Because you'll see a lot of the time, people will train for a year, want to compete.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's happening younger and younger.
It is.
Have you noticed that?
I got 3 teenagers this season.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's good for them.
Yeah.
But it's also, it scares me in regards to what we just talked about before with reverse dieting, with being younger. They don't really have the fear of getting a lot of post comp weight because they're so young.
Correct.
But if they keep that attitude up, it's going to eventually blow them out of the water.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that's what I was thinking about today's discussion about letting people know the importance of post comp and reverse dieting on the back end of a comp prep as opposed to just thinking about the comp alone. Yeah, it does. It really hinders people's process, and obviously there's lots of scientific backing about, you know, fat cell growth and growing new fat cells and size of fat cells and yada yada yada. It's too complex, and I haven't had enough coffee yet to explain it. But yeah, I think it's very important for people to hear that there's always another comp. There's always another show.
There is.
And I think a lot of the times people just get so narrow-minded on that show only.
Yeah. They do. They're generally fixated, and it is often for the wrong reasons that they're competing.
Okay.
Their why isn't about the sport. It's about, I want to compete with my friend, or I'm doing this for a weight loss journey, or it's a bucket list item.
Yeah.
So that becomes a bit of a flag for you.
Yeah, it does.
Do you find people who have that reason to compete are also the same people who generally waver at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because because as we all know, a contest prep is, well, for lack of a better term, fucking hard.
It's
right?
fucking hard.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
So your why for doing it has to be strong enough to get you through those really tough days.
Yeah.
If they're doing it just to do it with a friend or a bucket list or something, it's generally not strong enough.
Yeah.
And they will waver.
Or it's a post breakup or
That's a big one.
That is a big one. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's huge.
You know?
Yeah.
And kudos to them for fixating something else. But I think they're
it's not the answer. You know,
they're putting their heartbreak into something that's probably harder.
No, go and take up, friggin' cards or something.
Yeah, just something that's not so intense.
Just do some weightlifting.
Yeah,
focus on your strength, right? To start
100%.
with.
And that's the thing. Like you raised that point before. A lot of them are doing it off the back of maybe 6 months in a gym.
Yeah.
You need to have some serious weightlifting experience, but also you need to have some dieting experience. A lot of people aren't familiar with, one, they don't know how to calorie track.
Yeah.
Right? So, and secondly, they don't know how to overcome and handle being hungry often.
Yeah.
And those two things can be very overwhelming for individuals, particularly when you're in the depths or 3 months into a prep or something. The emotions are really, really high and you're hungry and they can't handle that. So straight away, what do? They go for food because that's what we do when we're depressed or sad
it's
or
true.
emotional or,
I guess it's, I guess when you've dieted a few times, as you said, you sort of learn the tricks that work for you.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone's tricks are different.
That's right.
Like I have a few tricks that I did when I feel like I wanted to jump off a bridge that had no body fat left.
Yeah.
My eyes started hurting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think you only learn that from going through it.
You do. Experience, but you've got to be, everyone's a first timer at some point, right? So
correct.
You only know what you know, but that's where it's really important to have, without this sounding egotistical, a really good, qualified, experienced coach who will hold your hand effectively.
Well, that's what you're paying for.
Exactly.
You know, let's be real,
right.
Like coaching isn't cheap.
No.
The whole prep isn't cheap, but
No.
it's not cheap for a reason.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, I whenever people who want to compete, I always say, have you got 5 to 6 grand to throw?
Yeah.
'Cause that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably
If
not.
not
And if
more.
it's female, it's more, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, because you
really
got what? You got
expensive.
your outfits, hair.
Yeah,
everything.
hair and
Makeup.
makeup and tans is like one of the most expensive. I tell people all the time about my last bikini. I only got one last season. It was $700.
Yeah.
And this guy's board shorts were $7 from Lowe's.
Five.
So
Yeah.
$5. Sorry,
$5.
about that.
$5 on the clearance rack.
Yeah,
mate.
perfect. Covered in green
It
tan.
is,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
super expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't. I think that's where you came back to your why. If you're starting to pull all this money out and you're already feeling like shit.
Yeah.
Eventually, it gets to a point where it's like, why am I spending all this money? Plus being depressed. Plus
Yeah.
can't eat.
Yeah.
You can't socialise. So it has to be quite strong to get through that.
Yeah. And then you pop out the other side and you got no money left. So all of a sudden you're going to be stressed financially as well. So
yeah.
what do you do when you're stressed? You eat.
Yeah.
So that's going to heighten that situation even more.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, you need to be aware, and I obviously, Kel will be the same. I've got qualifying questions before they even start.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of them, can you afford this?
Sure.
Are you in a financial position to afford this?
Yes.
Do you have the support of your partner? Like all the relevant questions that makes them think and go, hang on a second, okay,
Well,
I'm prepared to do this, or no, I can't.
You put up a really good post actually the other day, Paul, about comp prep, and it had those questions listed that Paul asks when you are looking to train with him for comps. And it's just very cut and clear, these questions. So if you're not answering those in the right way, then, you know, what's the point?
Yeah.
And going back just a little bit to, you know, how hard it is. And we were literally talking about this morning, remember?
Yeah.
And I was saying that I have someone at the moment who's competing for their first time, and she's done marathons and all kinds of shit before. So like triathlons, marathons, that's mentally hard, right? So I've taken, 100, and she's been lifting for a long time. And so, you know, we've taken her on, and she came in this week, didn't she? And she was like, I'm dying. Like, this is really fucking hard. And I said to her, I'm like, well, I never tell anyone at the start that it's easy. I tell you guys it's hard, but how do you actually describe how hard it is? And the answer is you can't.
You can't.
You cannot do it, and like you can't explain the gravity of comp prep until you actually experience it yourself. And I think that it's important for people to, and going back to pulling people out and things like that, you need to, as an athlete, also recognize when you need to pull back as well. So you need to take some of that responsibility. It's not just your coach's responsibility to pull you from stage. If you know you're struggling and you're struggling that bad, it should be a conversation you have with your coach as well. And you need to be big enough to say, okay, this isn't my time right now. You know, again, there's heaps of comps around, so next time's my time, you know. There's always another comp around the corner.
I think that comes down to having clientele that are mature. And that's where I fear that it's just not getting that way, because the younger society see everyone on Instagram. They see all these people who are...
They want it now.
It's the whole world of now. Like, perfect example, look at my shop. That's a now shop. You know, people come in here who want to lose weight. I want a supplement for weight loss. And it's just, they can help. Sure, all supplements have their place. Just like all coaches have their place. But, you know, I always say to people, are you actually set up for the goal you want to do? And a lot of the time they're not. And that's the harsh reality of the fake world we live in, is that everything you see on social media, believe it or not, guys, is not actually true. It's a big...
No way.
I know, it's a shock. I'm sorry. I've wrecked it.
Lots of people crying.
I've wrecked it for... I've wrecked it for most of the social media influencers, whatever the fuck they do. So you just see everyone who's lean and jacked, and you know, that's really cool that he does that with his missus, or they train together or whatever. And I'm like, but they've been doing that for like 30 years.
Exactly.
It's a big difference.
It is, unfortunately.
And you'll see other people who have they'll have a year's worth of photos taken when they're in comp prep. And they'll post one up.
All year long.
And people think that that's what they look
They're
like. And you meet them in real life, and you're like, oh, it's actual off season.
Which is again, that goes back to that reverse dieting culture as well, and not knowing a lot about that, because like you said, they're taking pictures enough for their social media for an entire year's worth of stuff, and then you're someone on the outside looking and going, oh shit, why can't I stay? I know I've said it to you before. Why can't I stay that shredded in my off season? And Paul's like, well, that's counterintuitive. We're trying to build muscle. To build muscle, you need to put weight on. Like, it's just logic, right?
It's actually, when you think about it, on a base level, it's very simple. Like, you know, it's literally like putting fuel in your car. The longer you need to have more fuel if you want to go further. And you know, it's not actually that hard to work out. I think it's more because people don't want to. Bit of a denial going. But then people are like trying to reverse out, and they're putting weight on, and then that freaks them out. And then what happens, right? They go, wow, I'm putting weight on, I'm going to drop calories. And then
try and diet out of it.
And then their metabolic rate goes, hang on, I'm going up. Oh, hang on, no, I'm going down. I'm going up.
I don't know where I am anymore.
I'm going to lock it in. Eddie. I'm going to go metabolic syndrome right here. And it's as low as high as I'm going to get. Yeah, and that's, I think, it's a perfect example of people who have yo-yo dieted for years and they come back in now and they go, even if I smell a carb, I put weight on.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's actually because of you.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the food you've eaten.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah. So, and it all comes back to it, I suppose, if they want to listen to you at the start.
Well, that's exactly it, And I think we're at a point now where we're good enough, for lack of a better term, to identify those that will and won't.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, under pressure, under emotion, under hunger, people will do stupid things. It gets the better of them. So it's not the easiest sport in the world to take on. So you got to be prepared. That's the thing. You've got to do your research, understand what you're getting in for, and have a good support network around you, as well as obviously good coaching.
What do you think about? A few more questions before I take up your whole day. What do you think about the age-old debate of, let's say your partners living together, or husband and wife, whatever? Is it better for them to prep together or separately?
Question.
I've done it once with Monty.
How'd that go?
I don't think it was too bad.
You still got the ring on, so
yeah.
It's a good.
He's still got it.
Yeah.
Look, I think because it's very selfish at the same time, because you're so focused on your food prep, and you have to train, you've got to get your steps, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. So other things can push to the side. I've found when I've prepped on my own, she picks up the slack quite easily, which I'm really grateful for, especially with kids. I think if you prep together, if you've got kids or other responsibilities,
that will make it very hard.
It will be very challenging, and we only prep together, and I think, did we do 2 shows or one? It was a very short space of time anyway, so we're in and out real quick.
Yeah.
But I think if we did a lengthy season or something like that, it'd be quite challenging. But there's plenty out there that do, plenty of couples that do, and I think the ones that are successful, the ones that don't have the added responsibility of kids or things like that.
Sure, it's just them.
It's just them.
In a better word, they're already, without designing it, they're already selfish.
Yeah.
So it have to see about them anyway.
Yeah, that's it. They just got to heighten their food responsibility. They keep training the way they are, and it probably works to their advantage.
Well, you've got the pros and cons of it, right? Because like Paul said, kids are obviously a massive factor. If you're both dying in the arse at the end of the day and you've got kids, I mean, one of you has got to pull the weight, right?
You know what really makes it really hard with me, like when I was dieting with my kids, is those beautiful like chicken nuggets, and like they'll have, I love them, and they'll have like 1 or 2 left on the plate.
Oh, you're so tempted.
Yeah, you're just like, I don't want to throw this out. This costs money.
Oh, no.
And I'm actually doing myself a favour here by saving money. That was what I felt.
Tell yourself what you need to do.
Yeah. That's what I found really hard. My fiance would always be like, don't eat their food because that's theirs. And that was the most wise advice you gave me ever.
Yeah,
and I was like,
advice.
you're correct.
Yeah. But Kel's right. Like, if you're doing it together and you've got those responsibilities, someone has to pick up the slack, because you inevitably it gets harder and harder just to do general chores and
just live.
Just live.
Just wake up in the morning and move.
Getting up, putting your shoes on.
But I mean, I guess on the flip side, the good part is, like, when I'm prepping in my household, my boys are in there and they're still eating chocolate and whatever the hell they like. So I've got all this temptation food, which is an added stress, I guess, on me. By, like you said, you don't want to eat the last couple of nuggets. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas if you're both prepping together, I guess you can control the food in the house a lot better.
That's true.
And I think one thing, like, Lee was really good this season, like my last season. He really got into it, and he was extremely supportive. He came backstage with us a heap, and like he put himself in there and learned a lot about it. So he gets it a bit more. That makes a difference. However, he still doesn't get it. As in, like, he's never prepped before. And again, going back to what we said earlier, you don't know until you've done it before. You really can't. Unless you've experienced it, you can't fully understand. So he sometimes didn't get the gravity of, like, everything how I was so hungry. He couldn't comprehend that because he's never been in that state before. So I think prepping together in that instance is a good thing. But I would probably say it would be with kids in particular, probably harder than easier.
I know how irritable I get, and you end up snapping at your kids, not on purpose, but because you just don't have the attention span, or you've got such a short fuse. And if my wife was prepping at the same time, not saying that she'd be in a similar mental state, but because she's not, she can actually pull me in the line pretty quick and say, hey, it's not their fault that you're hungry. You know, just chill the fuck out for a second.
Yeah.
You know, so I can get called on shit like that because I don't want them to hate me by the time I'm at the end of my prep.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah,
I think it's also because people can understand it to a bit, like you were saying before. But the biggest key thing I see here is weight loss is not the same as contest prep.
No.
That's where people who try and go, I get it. You know, I lost 20 kilos. Cool. You're not getting down to single digits on a DEXA scan. You're not, there's things that, when you're losing weight, you're losing weight slowly. There's no time frame. You can take your time. Whereas you have a time frame that you want to get by, and every single thing matters.
Yeah.
I remember
and
talking.
The pressure as well.
Yeah, I remember talking to my coach a while ago when I was prepping for a powerlifting show. And you'd miss one exercise and one lift. And it's like, cool, you now have to do that on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like you can't just go, well.
Oh, there's no way. You're not missing your cardio.
Yeah, you can't mix anything.
Everything
has to be done.
Everyone's like,
it all adds up.
When you go out and someone's like, just taste this. It's not going to matter.
Yeah.
It's like, it actually does.
It
actually does matter. And you, again, can't comprehend that until you're in it. And then,
because that's when everyone just starts thinking you have an eating disorder.
Yes.
Are you all right?
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, but as soon as you tell them you're in prep, they think you're awesome. Congratulations, you're looking so lean. But if you're still exactly the same person, sitting over, skinny as...
I get like, that you look really good, probably about like 12 weeks out, I reckon. And then you get to 6 weeks out and you're starting to look like...
Gollum.
And everyone's like, are you okay? And it's like, bro, you know what I've been doing this whole time.
Yeah, I'm just smoking meth now. You're just a full-on junkie.
And then all of a sudden you get on stage and you've had your carb up and everything. Everyone's like, holy shit, you look amazing. I'm like, I literally looked like I looked 6 weeks ago this morning.
Yeah.
If not worse.
Yeah, it's funny how
everyone's
that works.
Like, no.
Yeah, I think another thing that really helps as well is letting everyone know what you want to do.
Oh, absolutely.
So I've seen some people want to compete in secret.
Yeah.
And that's when people start getting really worried.
Yeah.
They've got no accountability. They just pull out any time.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not competing anymore. It's too hard.
Yeah.
But if you told everyone,
then
you're like, hey, man, you can't do that. Like, your good friends will pick you up on it and be like, you can't have that pie, bro.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have that.
100%. Yeah. No, it is good to have that added accountability because you can get weak. There's moments where it'll just get the better of you, And
I was weekly, daily, man.
Yeah,
every day.
And if you can't physically pull yourself out of that situation, it's
I literally work in a shop full of protein bars. Next door is one of the best cafes on the coast.
Oh yeah, you do too.
Yeah,
they make great coffee.
Yeah, great coffee, great burgers.
Good food too.
Yeah,
Their breakfast wraps.
Yeah, it's great. Just sitting there every day smelling it.
it.
Subway cooks their bread at lunchtime.
Oh, and their cookies.
They're like cheaper than anything, like $1.
Yeah.
Like just like screaming at me. Yeah, but it's there's temptation everywhere. But I think that was typical of us to have no structure in this. We had a set thing to talk about, and we just went everywhere.
That's all right. It's tangent, mate. That's what we do.
That's literally what we do.
That's all we do. But
I do have severe ADHD, so that makes sense.
Oh yeah. That's all right. Like we covered it all. It's like I think the take home message is as an individual, you need to do your research. So you need to understand what you're going in for first and foremost. So rather than just seeing the end result being a great physique on stage, you need to know what the 30 weeks led up to was like. And while you can't experience, as Kel said, you can still understand the process
as much as you can.
Yeah, what's involved, how a coach strategizes, training, all those sorts of things. And then to go back to our original topic that we were talking about, the post-show recovery and everything like that, again, you need to know that whoever you're going to engage to guide you is going to assist you beyond that.
That's a huge key point.
And knows how to.
Yeah, and knows how to.
Because there's a lot of prep coaches out there who are not nutritionally qualified.
No, that's right, unfortunately,
Yeah,
they'll just take you up until the show. And if you want help afterwards, it's not as given because you're not getting anything back from it.
No, that's right.
You've already done your show, and especially if you're in place.
I actually think I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but you and Moni did actually a really good YouTube clip on reverse dieting. And you had that whiteboard.
Yeah.
It is an old one, but it is so relevant. And I think that it's a really good one because both you and Mon experienced that not so great reverse diet at the start 100%. Because it wasn't as well known. No. And you guys really go into that and explain it. And I think that YouTube video on your channel is actually a very, very important one, and I actually use it for my clients. So I send that to my clients at 6 weeks out from comp, because I think that it is a very good way to portray how detrimental it could be without scaring someone too much, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a really good balance between explaining the
But I think if someone's getting scared about what can happen if it goes wrong, it's probably a sign that they're probably not ready.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Yeah,
like it's you're playing around with things here that can really stuff you up for life.
Yeah.
And it's a big responsibility.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely. It is.
So either take it on and understand it, or you're not ready.
100%. Yeah. No, it's like I said earlier, it's very hard to be perfect in a reverse, but if you're aware, if you're guided, if you're mature enough to handle some tougher situations, then you'll generally get through it okay.
Yep. And just realise that you're doing this to set yourself up for the next one.
Yeah, and that's it. You don't want to have a bad experience and, whack on a crap load of weight or just have a terrible time because you'll never do it again.
Yeah.
You might have had an amazing day, but you'll never do it again because the post-comp experience just fucked you.
Yeah.
Whereas, we want you to do it again because you're only going to get better. Everyone who competes multiple times, case in point, sitting next to me, you always get better. So because you're more experienced, you put on more muscle mass, you run your preps better. It is.
I think one note before we wrap it up is that, and I know this from Paul's client's experience, you need to be honest with your coach afterwards. You really need to be honest because...
Why are you smiling, Paul?
Oh, dude, I know who she's talking about.
Because if you are not honest with your coach, he cannot help you or she cannot help you. They can't help you if you are really struggling post-comp and you are lying about your weight, the calories that you're consuming, you not struggling. They can't help you.
No.
If you tell them what's going on, you're more likely to be able to pull it back and not completely destroy everything.
Yeah.
It's super important to be honest with your coach. And
as hard as it is.
It's hard, but that's what we're here for. We're not here, and I try and say this to my clients in particular, even around check-ins.
Yeah.
Your check-ins and the contact that you have with your coach is not so that your coach can judge you and be like, oh my God, this dickhead, it's there because we genuinely care. Like, we do this job because we care and we love the sport, like Paul said. And so I think that without taking that honesty into it with your coach, it really is on you. Then you'll reverse. Like, if you are not honest about it, it's on you, because if you're honest, they can at least try and help you bring it back to a reasonable state. Change up the reverse. Like, if you've gone, I want to reverse out really slowly, and you start reversing out slowly and you find yourself binging, say to your coach, look, I'm really struggling. I'm finding I'm eating a block of chocolate every now and then, or whatever it might be, because it happens. And it's like, then he can go, okay, well, this slow reverse isn't working. Perhaps we should just pop you straight to maintenance, because at least we're going to reduce the damage over time. Like, we can change it. We can. It is very customized to each client. We can, do things like implement, like group chats is one of the things that Paul does post-comp. He gets the team from the season and kind of pops us in a group chat, checks in on us every couple of days. How's everyone going? Do you know what I mean? So you've kind of got that group and support around you.
You're not the only one going through it.
No,
you can feel isolated, bro.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really important to know, like, if you are going to compete, to know, yes, obviously know your reverse, know what you're getting in for, but just be honest with your coach.
And that's where an experienced coach comes into. Like Kel said, I've competed multiple seasons now over 10 years, but I've had shit reverses where I've blown out. I've eaten tubs of ice cream every single day, and I'll openly admit it because I've learned from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can help them from a point of view that I've experienced it myself.
Yeah.
You know, so it's you've got to be honest. You have to be transparent. If you're having a tough time, just open up and talk to them.
Yeah.
When you are spending a lot of time with this person, you're going to be in your life for over half to 3/4 of a year. So that's why it's so important to actually get along with your coach.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people hire their coaches because they're very famous.
Yes. Yep.
But know nothing about them.
Yes. You've got to have a rapport. There's got to be trust both ways.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Don't just hire someone because they got fucking 100,000
huge followers. Yeah, they look really good and their clients look good.
Yeah. They're ripped 24/7. Right?
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. But they're over in London, so you don't even see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely build that rapport. But yeah, that's good. I think that's really, really good.
Cool.
Now I'm going to go eat some food. Very, very much so.
Unreal. Oh, thanks for dropping in, Timmy.
No worries
Appreciate
at all.
it, as always.
For the role reversal, mate.
Oh, mate, I'm happy to answer questions and nothing to hide here.
Yeah, perfect. Easy
And
as.
gate crashed by me.
Yeah, that's all right.
You are part of the crew.
Yeah,
I think so. More female perspective for the female clients out there would probably be a good idea.
Yeah.
I think. Paul has been doing this a long time, and everyone's pretty sick of him. So.
And I actually think we did do one of my post comp because I guess Paul likes to keep himself knowledgeable in this space, and so it's always question from a female perspective, you know. And you've asked me about my sex drive during prep as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not the best girl to ask that to, but it's he's always learning from me as well in that respect. So it's always good to kind of have that different sides of the coin.
It always, whether you love it or hate it, hormones definitely give you a big insight to how the person's going.
Absolutely.
It's where everything happens. So I think another thing with coaches and clientele is just realise that everything is on limits.
Yeah.
There is no off-limit questions.
No, there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. This person's going to be helping you in a bikini very soon.
Well, that's it.
There's no TMI.
No, it's just you need to tell me everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how's number twos? How's constipation?
Periods.
Everything.
Everything. Because it's all relevant at the end of the day. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, that's just one thing you have to understand.
Yep. Yeah, my check-ins were I had a big poo today. Paul's awesome.
Oh, fantastic.
So that explains the 2 kilo drop this week.
Yeah. Unreal.
Oh, dear. Cool.
No worries.
All right. Happy days.
Easy.
Well, that was a fantastic podcast and a great chat with both Tim and Kelly. As you can tell, we're all very passionate about this space in health and fitness, and in particular contest prep, dieting, reverse dieting, recovery, and just general health. It's so important that people's health is prioritised when they undergo such an integral and aggressive dieting period such as a contest prep, and that's obviously the outcome we want to achieve is optimal health at the end of the day so that people have a wonderful experience. So thank you very much to Tim from Nutrition Warehouse. He and his staff have a wealth of knowledge, so if you're in the Kiwana area, drop in and see them. Mention Paul's Body Engineering and they will certainly look after you. Mention this podcast in particular and tell them how much you enjoyed it, of course. And of course, as always, thank you to Kelly. She's been on numerous times before. Again, bringing a female perspective, bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we hope that we can get them back again in the not-too-distant future for another chat. So, if you are interested in any of my coaching services, please jump on paulsbodyengineering.com, and of course, check out my new app in the App Store. Search Paul's Strength Book, or you can find it through my website as well. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it on your stories. Tag myself, tag Nutrition Warehouse, tag Kelly. She's Kelly Greenslade. And as I say to every client every single day, have a great day.